everybody. Thank you for joining again. Karl, thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, cool. So today, the topic du jour is Airbnbs. So Airbnbs come up, well, okay, let's say this, short-term rentals. It doesn't necessarily have to be Airbnb. Short-term rentals come up a lot in conversation with my clients because people use Airbnbs and they understand what it's like from the user end. I think people have understood how to rent places, hotels, short-term rentals for a long time. But then a lot of people never considered doing them themselves, putting short-term renters in their own places. But it's a huge way to make money, to help offset a huge mortgage payment you may have in the area. Right?
Yeah, it's kind of why I did it. It is exactly why I did it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So today I wanted to get into talking about how they work, not necessarily the nitty gritty, but it's really evolved in the area and it just comes up all the time. So let's first and foremost, if you don't mind, maybe tell everybody about your company and how you got where you are so that they understand what you do.
Yeah. All right. So my name is Karl Scarlett. My middle name is Karl, actually, but that's what I go by. And I am the owner of Great Dwellings. And if I had to put it in a phrase, Great Dwellings helps people turn their homes into Airbnbs or their rental property or whatever. That would be the gist of it. Sometimes people call us Airbnb property managers. And how I got into it, I read a Kiyosaki book on Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I was like, man, I need to get a rental property. And so I got a 2-unit home in DC in Shaw and rented it out and had some issues. I even had to go to court once to have a tenant pay. Eventually he paid, but I had to force it out of him. And it was my kind of a little bit of a side hustle because I had a day job. One 2-unit home's not going to make you rich. And then, built a family, that started to grow. But then the upstairs tenant stopped paying and would not pay. In fact, she was one of 3. The other 2 were like, thank you, I had a great year here. They graduated from college. And the third one, I guess, I don't even know. She didn't know what to do with her life. So she stayed, but didn't pay. Well, now I got to pay that mortgage plus the house I'm in. I'm trying to be a dad. And then actually I was going through a divorce. Maybe the money was the reason, I don't know. But I couldn't be a dad because I was spending extra time at work to pay the 2 mortgages. I was missing field trips, everything. So once she finally left, and I don't even know why, a friend of mine, I was kind of crying in my milk, explaining I'm broke in the rears, and she's like, try VRBO. So I on credit cards started getting the home repainted, furnished, and it took off so well. So anyway, then I got a second one. The basement tenant moved out. I did that, and then I got a second place, and it started growing. So people then said, "Hey, can you help me?" But I only had 2 places, 3 places. So I'm like, no, I'm not really an expert. I'm just doing this. But I was using this platform called Guesty that helps you manage the whole system. And at this point, I had 4 units. Sorry, this is a long answer, right? But I had 4 units, and Guesty is helping me manage the property from they can see my reviews, they can see. I can see in one view how to communicate with all the guests. Well, they said to me, they're like, hey, you should consider offering this as a service. I was like, man, people here keep asking me that, but nah. The guy flies from Israel, from where they're based. We meet in Georgetown at what is now Fisher's Farmers Bakery, but I don't think it was at the time. Anyway, and he was like, dude, no, you really need to do this. And he pulls out the spreadsheet, explains it to me, shows me. He's like, your reviews are better than anyone in the area. You're professional. We get it. We like it. You should try it. So I got a tech background. I built a website. I did the search engine optimization that kind of said, look, this is what I do. The leads start coming in left and right. People were like, can you help me? Can you help me? But I was a one-man band. I didn't respond to 90% of them because I was trying to make my guests happy. but it proved, hey, there's a model or there's a business for it. And that's if someone said long story short, I think I just went the opposite. Short story long. but yeah, and here we are today, and now we manage 100 properties.
Well, actually, it's okay. I like that you told the long version of the story, because I think a lot of people appreciate when they hire somebody to do something and that person has actually gone through the experience themselves, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's common with people who start businesses, right? It's like you see a need for something because you did it yourself, and that's what you did here. So that's good, because if you're managing my VRBO or my Airbnb, or your team is, I now know that you've really probably run the gamut with everything that's happened.
I've seen it
all.
Can happen. Yeah. And it's kind of cool, because there are times where we'll say, man, I wonder how a host will feel. And I'm like, team, I am a host and I know exactly how we feel. And it's like, well, should we be managing the HVAC system? Well, I mean, you're the eyes and ears of the homeowner. Yes, we either need to manage it or facilitate that management, right? Because I'm on the front lines. I've got a handful of units. So yeah, you're right. I am, the Hair Club for Men? I'm not only a member, I'm a founder or whatever. So that's me.
No, well, that's how I approach real estate, because every time I'm talking to my clients about a transaction, like I'm in the middle of a purchase right now, and we had a home inspection. We're trying to decide how to respond to the home inspection. Like, what are we going to ask, basically, after we've gotten the results? And I said, let's pretend we're the sellers getting our response right now. What's going to elicit a reaction that we are happy with, that's going to be palatable for them. So always looking at the other side is going to help you get usually a good result quicker, right? Without too much heartache and without unrealistic expectations being set up.
I mean, that's a good life principle in any situation, right? Look at the other side. Don't it's not all about you. So no, I like that. I think you're spot on, and that's how I like to view when I get emails from hosts. Hey, thank you. You guys have been awesome. But there have been a couple emails where, hey, I'm not super ecstatic about how things are going. And I've definitely put myself in their shoes of, if I leave out of town and I leave my property to a homeowner or to a property manager, these are the things I would expect, right? It's kind of cool. We have a few homeowners that work for the State Department, and they're literally in like Tanzania and Tunisia, and they're in Israel, and they're like, hey, how's my home doing, right? We got to say it's in good shape, and we made you $5,000 this month, right? We even have some, I don't know, am I naming too much, but we have Facebook employees that are like senior executives that have moved out to California, and they leave their homes to us to take care of, and being able to make sure it makes money, maximum revenue, because that's important too. This is an investment for them, right? This supplements their income. And I was the dad who couldn't go on field trips with my kids because I didn't have any money. Once I went on Airbnb, the email came in from the teacher that said, hey, who can volunteer? And it was this like aha moment. I can finally volunteer. And then I was like on every one, and they finally went on like the last 3 field trips. But the supplemental income gave me the freedom to like breathe.
So, I mean, it's amazing. I think let's take a couple steps back and talk about how this can actually work for somebody, because, the way, when we started this episode a couple minutes ago, I said that a lot of people are bringing this topic up to me. They're saying, hey, in this particular market right now, we know it's insane. There are people paying, 10, 15, 20% over asking price sometimes. And it's expensive market, period, end of sentence. It's even more expensive right now. So it would be great, hey, if I could have a place that I don't necessarily need to rent it, but as an option for me to rent, right? And so it could be long-term, it could be short-term, whatever. And so, obviously I'm not an attorney. I'm not giving any advice as far as the legalities of it. There's, minor stuff that I know, obviously, because I am in real estate, but same thing with like the financials of it. Like, I don't really know what somebody can expect, or, the cost benefit analysis of some of these things. And I've seen a huge uptick in people asking about Airbnbs and whatnot during COVID, because the interest went up so much and Airbnbs did so well. So, I guess what I would love to talk about is kind of how Airbnbs have been doing, and, how, a general kind of way that it works for people if they do want to invest in a home that has a supplemental, rental.
Yeah. All right. I'll try to touch on a couple points. If I forget one, just remind me. But
Sure.
So yeah, people kept asking me, man, what did COVID do to the Airbnb world? Some people even thought, did you shut your doors? Like, did COVID mess you up? And it's weird. In April, like when people finally like, oh wait, this is going to last more than 2 weeks, I should probably stay home. Yeah, things started looking pretty bad. Our occupancy rate dropped, more than we're used to. So we're used to kind of a high 70s, low 80% occupancy rate of the month. All of our properties are usually filled all but 20% of the days. Well, it dropped to the 60s, which was kind of like, whoa, oh my gosh, are we going to be okay? I looked at the hotel market. It was in the like 20s and 30s, and some hotels closed. Like there was a prominent Marriott that closed. So then I thought, oh man, is that our fate? Like, things are going to just decline. Well, man, May and June, things start picking back up. So I guess people got cabin fever right away and started traveling again. Or people just were like, look, I have to go to DC for whatever reason. Family, I'm going to be near a sick family, or hey, I work for the government. Shoot, this is a tangent, but I got to bring it up. We actually housed quite a few State Department employees who repatriated for a while, right? I guess that's the word. Or they came back to the U.S. because the federal government was like, hey, the country you're in is probably not where you wanted to exist or be during COVID. So a ton of State Department employees came to our property, stayed for several months at a time. So short-term rental doesn't have to be 3 days, it can be a couple months. And then what's kind of cool is State Department pays based on the number of kids you have or people in your household. So those guys were like, look, here's what I can afford. And it was, oh, that's a great number. So we made a lot of our owners a lot of money because there were State Department and any other federal government employee moved back into DC for a while. So our occupancy rates jumped up. Our nightly rates went back to, I would say, a little less than normal, but it was great. So you asked, how does it work for supplemental income? So, like you said, I'm not a lawyer, but the DC rules that they recently passed are it needs to be an accessory dwelling, or you need to live in the home. So some people rent out a room. Hey, I live in the master bedroom, and you can stay in the spare room. That's not. We don't really help with that, but that's how Airbnb started, right? Well, now people, when they travel, want their own apartment, their own place with their own door. Well, that's where the English basements and carriage homes work out perfect. And we have one host who lives in his English basement and rents out the top. And I kid you not, he was making like $10,000 a month in the summer months. So it was like the grip. And he was single. He was single. So, living in the basement was fine for him. And then when the Nats Stadium hosted the World Series, he literally had like the mom of one of the athletes stay there for like a week or two. It was pretty cool. I've had diplomats put their family in some of our places. Like a limo pulls up or a Suburban pulls up and drops them off. But so yeah, that 10K number could make people think, oh, I'm doing it today. I'll say the average is, I'll even say, I know our numbers. Our average nightly rate is $179. But that's because we have some studio apartments and then we have some whole homes, right? So studio is going to skew the number a little bit lower, and a lot of people do English basements. So 179, I told you, high 70s occupancy rate. So we go with 80%. That's 80,000, or sorry, $4,000 a month. That I would say the average person can expect to generate. And then we have a fee. Great Dwellings has a management fee, kind of like any property manager would, and that's supplemental income that they can use, and that covers most of the mortgage for some people.
So, short-term rentals versus long-term rentals. I'm sure this is a conversation you have with people frequently. It's certainly something I talk about with my clients when this topic comes up. The fact that a long-term rental, having somebody in for a year, obviously is kind of, well, you hope, no muss, no fuss, like they're in and then they're there for a year, and hopefully you vetted them well. And so that they're going to pay rent on time, and, you fix things when they break, like you would have to fix something in your own house if it breaks.
Right. Yep.
But, your income it's steady, but it's usually not going to be like exponentially high or higher than short-term rentals, which the thing is, because you have turnover and because it's run almost like a hotel, you can get more money per night. So those are that's kind of where it ends for me when I have that conversation, is like, there's a little bit more there's not a little bit, there's a lot more work if you have a short term, because you've got to deal with cleaning, you've got to deal with all that kind of stuff. And there's more wear and tear, maybe, depending on, but
well, so, I'm going to disagree with the wear and tear part, but yeah. So I'll chime in. I was a long-term landlord for a while, like I said, and the money is steady. When it's coming, it's just, they paid by the 5th. Man, they waited to the 5th, but they paid. Man, that's good. I can pay my mortgage, and there's a little bit on top, and they're helping me buy down my equity. It's a win-win, right? Oh, something big broke. I didn't really make that much to fix this. That's what was the position that I was in. So that long-term landlord thing ended up just not being my cup of tea or what I really liked. Because when you sign up, you're signing up for a year. A year for someone that could be terrible. Now, mind you, I actually have a long-term rental where the guy is amazing. We no qualms, right? And then something breaks, we ask one quick question and it's fixed. So I'm not completely poo-pooing long-term rentals, because they can work out. But I had to go to court. Like, I literally don't even want my name showing up on a court record that I went to court, but I had to get these guys to pay. And then the one that wouldn't pay, the mortgage company is like, hey, sorry, but we need our mortgage payment. That was your choice to be a landlord, right? And it's like, but she didn't pay yet. So what I like is it tends to be a lesser wear and tear on this property and a lesser headache, because our cleaners come in behind every guest. So our average stay is right now about 3 days. Mm-hmm. The home gets clean every 3 days. The home is spick and span every 3 days, because we're trying to get an amazing review, right? And the better the reviews, the more you can charge, which is the more you can make. So it's cyclical. So we clean every home on average every 3 days. I've been to some of my long-term properties, and they don't clean every 3 days. Man, that's like the one single guy. It's like, dude, do you ever clean? Right?
Yeah.
And they're pack rats in a way. So
that's true. Because I have a long-term rental right now, because Airbnb unfortunately is not an option for me. It's in a small building, and so no Airbnbs, no short-term rentals, and so that's my only option. And so I have an excellent tenant right now who I hope stays forever and ever.
Right, exactly.
I had tenants who told me like 4 months after a leak started that they admitted that they had seen something 4 months ago. And I'm just like, why?
Exactly.
Like, why would you not say something to me?
Yeah.
And, of course I'm going to fix it regardless. Cause I mean, for them, for me, for everyone, like, you need to deal with it. But, who knows? Like it probably or not, not probably, it was worse than it needed to be. It could have been dealt with. And if I had been going there and cleaning every 3 to 5 days, like you're saying,
you would have seen
somebody
it.
would have noticed it and dealt with it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
So
our cleaners use an app where they have to take pictures of how the state of every section. And so, then we have another team that reviews those pictures. So we're able to see that wear and tear or those problems. And you even, hey, let us know that is the sink draining slowly, right? There are things.
Well, even your tenants, actually, another thing about even short-term tenants, when you're reviewing,
sometimes
people will be like, well, the toilet was dripping, and you kind of want to be like, I wish you had not written on the review because I would have fixed it. But you're like, okay, cool. Yep. Like, that's the thing with short-term. People are going to tell you everything that's happening with your place.
Exactly. Oh, speaking of the toilet, so a long-term tenant didn't tell me that the toilet was running constantly.
Cool.
And I had an auto debit from DC Water, and it was like $1,600. And I'm like, wait a second, I only make a few $100s over mortgage. Why is this bank account dropping? Like, it should be slowly ticking up. And I was like, wait a second, and $1,600. And what's crazy is I didn't know this till the second month, right? Because I'm not like staring at that account. Wait, I paid $3,000 in water. And they were like, yeah, we heard a noise. Really? $3,000 later? So our cleaners go in every few days, listen for stuff like that. And it turns out to be, that's a benefit, like kind of a, now we're talking about it, it's like a benefit I didn't even really consider, but yeah, those repairs tend to happen quicker.
This is when having video component of this podcast is funny, because I don't think I've ever cringed like that on an episode before.
Right, exactly. And I'm like, it's coming back to me like a nightmare. Like,
that's insane.
Right. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Right. Then I kind of got upset with DC Water. I'm like, well, I'm not taking that long of a shower. Could you not call me or something? Which I think they finally did implement some sort of like excessive water usage, but it was after that.
Yeah. Well, we can have an whole episode about DC and like utility companies if we really wanted to, but not today. So your company is then, you're managing many, many properties and things are doing very well. And COVID restrictions are lifting and things are, do you think that there's just been a kind of a switch over from people in general preferring Airbnb type rentals versus hotels, or do you think that's maybe just cyclical depending on kind of where we were in the last year?
Well, I mean, I'm hoping it sticks, but I do think people have kind of experienced it and liked it. So for a while, people were staying in Airbnbs because it was their way to be socially distant during a pandemic. So people were avoiding hotels because of the, shared lobbies and elevators and whatnot. So this was your own private home. Someone had a nice little backyard space and everything. So for that reason, I think more people got familiar with the app that weren't doing it before. Man, you're going to DC? Oh, you should try Airbnb. I mean, Airbnb went public in a pandemic and did well. So more and more people know about it. More people know how to use it. And I honestly think that it's going to stick. Man, we did that a few times. It was great. Because this is definitely something I do. When I travel with my family, I always Airbnb because I've got 13-year-old twins, a 3-year-old, and and my wife. How many hotel rooms am I going to rent, right? And then I'm a little bit of a hotel snob, so I'm not going to stay at $99 hotel, which that still would be expensive. But now I'm staying in a nice one and then double. I just did that actually. We when we were house hunting in New York, it was like a last minute trip, and man, Airbnbs were like selling out. So we went to a hotel, and I spent like $1,000 a night just to house the whole family. You do that in the Airbnb with a 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom, you're able to do it kind of cost effectively. So super long answer to say, I think people starting to realize it's actually a good way to travel.
I think you're right. And also like for me personally, like, so I'd say a fair number of the episodes on this podcast are like kind of style or design related, because that's part of real estate that I really enjoy. And I think that hotels are normally like
Yes.
very standard. Like, you've got
Standard.
one. Yeah, they're very
Yeah.
standard. And like,
Yep.
there are some that are like incredible. And those are the ones that usually cost like, $1,000 plus a night.
Mm-hmm.
And like, perhaps we splurge on things like that every so often, but you
Right.
can
But you
find
can't.
like, I feel like Airbnbs and VRBOs, people have really stepped up like their design game,
They have
you
to, right?
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
say the one vacation we went on during the pandemic was down in Florida. We drove like a million hours to this area called Weeki Wachee Springs because
Oh,
I've never seen manatees. Here you go. It's a little information about me.
that
Too
was
much.
your reason.
So I really want to see manatees. So we got this like riverboat house.
Nice.
Basically right on the river so that we could kayak with manatees. And
Wow.
like there are no hotels there, like on the water. You have to get somebody's house. And it was like totally not what I would normally want. It was not like modern and like, cool and like the skulls that I like and things like that. It was like you're on a riverboat house, like you're in the bayou, basically. That's what it felt like. I was like, this is awesome. It feels like an experience versus just like a house or a home to stay in.
Yeah.
And I think that that's been taken advantage of so well with these short-term rentals. Yeah. And so
I agree. I agree so much. So luckily we've expanded into Mexico. I don't want to go into that too much, but we have a little mini hotel in Mexico. And we took our designer from DC, the Burlette Design Group. They're amazing. And I said, look, you're so good. Come to Mexico and design these rooms. But I want this to feel like Mexico. When you come to the room, it should feel like Mexico. I don't want it to feel like DC. Because while I was trying to find a place or decide if I wanted to buy it, I stayed at this, well, I won't name a brand, but I stayed at this hotel chain. It was like, you would have felt like you were in like New Jersey. It was just Delaware. It was
like,
just
but
so
I'm not
standard.
I'm in Mexico.
Exactly, I'm in Mexico. Give me some flair. Give me some. So
Yeah.
that was the rule. Like, spend a couple weeks here. Go explore the area. I wanted to do a local designer, but I didn't know anybody. So this was like, come learn, buy, go to the market, and like you said, make the places feel local, feel cool. I think we may have same design taste. I love the image on your homepage. I was like, that's awesome. Matter of fact, that'd be a nice Airbnb. That was exactly what I thought when I saw it.
I just Airbnb my home.
You should.
I'll call you later.
You got great design skills. But yeah,
Thank
design
you.
matters, right?
Yeah, it does.
Your last person, your last guest, I think it was episode 30, the designer from New York was talking about you want that pop, right? You want that energy. You don't want what too many homeowners do is like, oh, I got it, I'll design it. They go to IKEA, they put a gray couch, this like standard IKEA picture, and I'm like, people are gonna stay here, but they're not gonna love it, right? You want to love it. So we call our Mexico hotel Duel, do everything with love. So host with love, make people feel welcome, decorate with love, right? That staging guy, you can tell he puts love into each of his purchases because he wants to stage it just right. So you want to do it with love. So that could be a whole episode, decorating Airbnbs with love.
Yeah. Well, listen, Karl, thank you so much for coming on. For anybody who has specific interest in actually going from A to Z on renting out their place and they need help, you're a great resource. And I'm happy to
definitely.
kind of push people your way, and we can link to your website on our show notes. And if anybody has any questions for me, of course, reach out. But thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Hopefully we can do a whole nother episode about, designing Airbnbs.
I like it.
I'd love to. All right. Thanks so much.
All right.
Okay.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.